Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. This is Michelle with Moksha Grace Coaching, and thank you for joining us for Moment of Presence. As you can see, I have a very special guest with me today. You may have remembered I was on Gemma's show, and now Gemma is here with me on Moment of Presence. So, Gemma, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a bit, and then we'll get started.
How amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be with you today, Michelle. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Of course.
So, in a nutshell, I am Gemma Serenity Gorokov, and I am victorious over 15 years of domestic violence, beaten, put down, raped, almost killed twice by strangulation. All of that ended in 2013, 11 years ago, when my last breath, my last exit strategy was to commit suicide. But I had a funny imagination at that moment in time. I thought that, sure, there is God. Therefore, as God is a man in the sky, all able to have power over our life and death, and who sends us back on many lifetimes, it's an interesting story. Therefore, in order to communicate in a very impactful way, I have to actually go to him. And go to him means my body has to die so that my spirit can go to heaven, address God, and tell him my heart's plea. And my heart's plea that I was ready to tell God, and that I had in my heart at that last moment in time was, well, I did not sign up for a life of abuse. There is some mix-up somewhere. I don't know exactly what happened, but there is something wrong. I'm okay you send me back because I did not finish, because I interrupted my life. I'm okay you send me back, but this time you send me back to a life of love, peace, harmony, generosity, where it feels safe at home and safe at work.
Right.
The good news is that God does not need us to die in order to have a communication with us. Therefore, he made his voice heard to my ear before I was actually jumping. And he told me, of course you can jump. It's going to work. But I'm going to give you the same life in worse. Is that really what you want? And we can imagine when you are at the last resort and everything you did to escape domestic violence, nothing worked. You plan to talk to God, and the answer is, sure, absolutely, you can die. Yeah, sure, I can send you back. But it's not the way you expect it to be, right?
Right.
Oh my gosh. So no, of course, I answered with all my soul, no. And he said, okay, so leave by the door. You can. I thought extremely fast because
Wow.
I tried 50 times to leave this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing worked. I was back home as if I never left. So last time I heard that voice and I said, well, let me give it a try because it's prompted by God. Maybe, just maybe, there is another exit that I didn't think of. I don't know. Let me give it a try. I can always die tomorrow. I'm not in a hurry anyway. That was my thought process at that lowest level, emotional level, in
Yeah.
2013. I left by the door, and Michelle, it is the only time the door did not make any noise at all. I was carried by God's presence in order to escape safely, silently, in the middle of the night. It was all good. And
Thank
from
God.
there, it was like, okay, I did it. And now what? And
Now
now
what?
he gave me the address where I was going. And
Wow.
the address came and turned like a mantra in my mind. And the address was the address of my third, last, and dream husband, Sasha, whom I didn't know
Wow.
he would become my husband at that time.
Yeah.
And I didn't know he would become my angel in flesh, who is still by my side today.
It's such an amazing story, Gemma, because you never expect to hear the voice, like you said, and then for the voice to say, yeah, go ahead, if that's what you want. And then the realization, but you're going to come back and you're going to have to endure the same thing.
Exactly. That was unbelievable. Now that I have learned so much about spirituality, about energy, about how our thought becomes things, how we are made in the image and likeness of God, meaning we are creator. We are all co-creator. Now that I know all of that, it makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Right.
That was
Yeah.
the message to actually merge the
Yes.
true reality and my imagination. Very interesting when you think of
Yes.
it.
Very, very. Um, that's such a intense story and beautiful. And you're here, and that's what matters. And you're here to shine your light and help so many. Um, what I would like to do, and if you join me, is I always bring the viewers into the moment and take a couple deep breaths. And I think after that story, we definitely need to take a couple deep breaths and breathe that in and let whatever love, definitely love, go into our heart. So if you'll join me, we'll take a deep breath in and then hold it, and then just breathe out slowly. And all of you out there, just do the same thing. Deep breath in and hold it. And nice, slow exhale. And one more. Deep breath in. Hold. Nice, slow, deep breath out. And perfect for part of our conversation today, which is renewing, cleaning, clearing our energy. And something after that, that experience that you went through, what had to transpire from that moment to where you are now? In a summary, because I'm sure it was a lot. How many years ago was that?
11 years ago.
11. So if you had to name one thing or three things that were the biggest things that helped you go from there to here, what would you say that was?
Surrender,
Mm.
trust,
Mm-hmm.
quantum jump.
Mm.
Because it is a complete change of reality. It's a complete change of life, change of people surrounding me, even change of countries.
Yeah.
It's a change even of language.
Mm-hmm.
It's a change of home. It's a change of family. It's a change of job. I mean, I have nothing in common with the person I was before.
Wow. So
Except
it's
maybe I
choices.
look quite the same with some white hair. But basically, I mean, that basically, that is the only thing that you can probably recognize.
Yeah. When you had to make some major choices,
That is a fact.
where
That
do
is
you
a fact.
think that strength came from?
Definitely Sasha,
Mm.
because he has accomplished
Mm-hmm.
seemingly impossible.
Mm.
He made it done. He was born highly disabled. According to the medical community, he should have never walked, he should have been mentally challenged, and he should have been dead before the age of 7 years old.
Wow.
We both are 45.
So it's miracle meets miracle.
He is extremely smart, intelligent. He went to the best universities and business schools.
Mm-hmm.
He is cultivated. He has a very clear and deep connection, understanding and connection with every living being, animal and human.
Yeah.
And when you come in life and you keep that and you nurture that in an environment that did not promote that,
Mm-hmm.
because his mother was had some serious mental health challenges, to
Mm-hmm.
the point of making Sasha's life as miserable as possible.
Wow.
But when you are a being of light, like Sasha is,
Mm-hmm.
after he's told me that it was about 18, 19 years old when he realized, hold on a second, what if in this lady, meaning mom, right? What if in this lady's mind, I am the problem, and this is why she's so erratic and ever changing and mean by
Mm-hmm.
moment? And he played back the entire life journey,
Mm-hmm.
understanding. Try that perspective,
Yeah.
and it matched everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was also suffering from narcissistic personality disorder, and she couldn't handle the fact that all the spotlight went onto her son,
Right.
who thrives and blossoms and is amazing and beat the odds. She couldn't handle that.
Yeah.
Because all good narcissists, you need to have the spotlight on you. You need
Right.
to be the best person in the room. You need to be the heart of the party. And
Yeah.
she couldn't,
Yeah.
because Sasha was naturally, without even trying, you know?
Yeah. Well, and you and I had talked about when we had our conversation, and before the conversation, we talked about the things that we come here in this life to experience, and that there is a reason for all of that. And there are lessons to be learned, and whether it's how to deal with the narcissist, if it's how to not judge other people, how to endure and surrender and escape, have an exit strategy, um, that there's a much bigger overarching plan than, and it's created before we even get here. And that's challenging for a lot of people to sink their teeth into and to believe. I didn't plan this for myself. How did I plan this for myself? Did that
You're
ever
right.
go through your mind?
Well, if you just connect with the first story I told you, it's like,
Right.
yeah, hey God,
Yeah.
I did not sign up for a life of abuse. I mean, there is some mix-up
Right.
somewhere. I don't get that. That was my
Right.
message. And that was my heart's plea,
Yeah.
you know? So definitely, I understand that.
And I think it's interesting and I watched a video this one time, the sun and the little soul, and it's about, so it's shifting the perspective, just like you said, that you were talking about, and from the perspective of what did that lesson, what did the abuse, what's the opposite of that, what are you supposed to learn? And so if it's survival, and so in your mind, or well, in your heart, before you even came here, you said, I want to go to earth and I want to learn how to survive. And then you come to earth and you get all of these ways where now you have all of these situations that you've got to survive. And so when I shifted my perspective and saw things that way, from what is this experience? What am I gaining from this experience? That's when everything started to make more sense to me, because I wasn't looking at the negative. I was looking at the positive of what the heck was I thinking? What was my plan here? What did I want to learn? And so if I came here wanting to learn forgiveness, someone was going to have to do something to upset me or hurt me so that I could forgive. Because how else do you learn forgiveness?
This is why I do not ask to learn forgiveness or patience or that kind of things, because, oh gosh, it's hard.
It is, and with manifestation and law of attraction, you have to be so careful with your words. Words matter, and you have to be careful with what you ask for. Not fearful, but you have to think it out.
Mhm. This is why it's very good to actually have a partner, a coach,
Mm-hmm.
someone you trust, and someone who holds you at high esteem and who can think through your choices of words and affirmations to make
Yes.
sure you are calling in the experience you desire and not
Mm-hmm.
something that sounds quite the same and is completely different just because the words are the same, right?
Yeah. For anyone out there, for those that are watching on the different platforms, you know, have you ever had a situation where you asked for something and boy, did you get it? And it wasn't exactly what you expected. Funny story. I put out there I wanted more property, meaning I wanted a bigger yard. I wanted more land. And I said property. Well, I got we got more property, but it was in the form of antiques. And my husband went on a collection of let's get some more. He loves collecting, and so he started collecting antiques, and I was like, "Wait a minute. That's not what I was expecting. That's not what I was talking about." So you have to be mindful. And so one of the things that we talked about was energetic self maintenance. And how do you keep yourself in the right frame of mind and mindfulness so that you can put out the right energy so that you're receiving back what you want?
What I realized is that we have our brains that works with all those thoughts, and we have a huge amount of thoughts that runs through our mind. And oftentimes it's the same set of thoughts from one day to the next, because a series of thoughts keeps on multiplying itself until something interrupts the program and shift and trigger another one to go. And now you go on another series. But it's impressive how many thoughts we get on the same, or when it go in repeat one, like
Yes.
just the same thing over and over again.
The
So
overthinking, the monkey mind.
exactly. So what I notice is that we have the same thing that when we breathe in and
Hmm.
then we breathe out, there is a pause in between in and out. And there is a pause, as small as it is, there is a pause. Between our thoughts, it's the same. In between each one of the sentence and image and feelings that we think, there is a pause. That pause is our vortex, our gateway to shift and to go back to something we choose. That is where reside
Hmm.
our immense creative power. So when our brain goes crazy and just like send many, many, many thoughts, especially fearful thoughts or worrying thoughts, that's a typical one, right?
Right.
um, when our
Anxiety.
brain and our mind goes that way, in between each, we have the power and the right and the duty, I would even say,
Mm-hmm.
to interrupt and to ask, is that even true? Did that
Yeah.
actually happen? Am I okay? Am I actually thinking what I want to experience? No. Okay, so stop thinking that and focus on what you want to experience, because you want to shift your train of thoughts
Right.
towards what you have chosen to affirm as your new reality. What I can tell you is that before knowing all of that,
Mm-hmm.
for an entire year prior to that key moment, that pivotal moment, I was daydreaming, fantasizing in another world,
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3 hours a day, sometimes more. In a world, and I was always starting that imagination, that dreams. I
Right.
was always starting it the same way. In a perfect world where
Mm-hmm.
there was no constriction, when everything is free and feel harmonious.
Yeah.
And now I was placing my people and imagining the relationship, imagining how would love feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my big question. How would love feel like in a healthy relationship where I'm not in danger all the time, where I'm not like constantly picked on
Right.
and put down? How would a real, genuine, healthy relationship feel like?
Mm-hmm. And you
And
manifested it.
and I manifested. And when I saw Sasha the first time,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't unlock my eyes from him, his energy. I felt that I met a good and generous man. I didn't know how exact I was in my perception, how accurate. I didn't know how much I was
Yeah.
pinpointing the exact personality of Sasha.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It's amazing. You know, people do vision boards. They write down in their journal. The vision board, I remember one time I had put a picture of a house. The house that I'm in now doesn't have a wraparound porch, but otherwise, it's exactly what I had put down. It has all the components.
You
I
can
didn't.
add your wraparound porch. That's your next big project.
Yes, I can add that on. Um, but it's the seeing it, and it's that the pause in between visualizing it, and also allowing yourself that whimsy of childhood daydreaming, childish childhood daydreaming, that when you have a minute, stare out the window and think of the good, but don't focus on the bad. And that has been life changing as well for me. Because how many times, and I'm sure you back in the day before that moment, other than daydreaming, there were times when you were thinking of all of the not what you wanted in your life.
This
Because
is
it's,
why it took an entire year.
yeah.
Because honestly, oh yeah, and that is so important. One of the time, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago,
Mhm.
I was asking the spiritual guide, because then I understood the number of spirits that is around there and who are helping us and watching over us and interacting with us. I started to perceive. And when I asked, how many guys are you? Just to have a number. And the answer was staggering. So many times
Yeah.
the number of people who are alive on Earth simultaneously, like a factor of that
Hmm.
is like, all right, I cannot even fathom that. Anyway, I understand a lot.
Right. A lot.
But I asked them, how long does it take to manifest? Why does it take sometimes 1 year, sometimes 10 years, sometimes 3 minutes? What
Right.
is that thing? And you know the answer that came? It takes the time for you, human race,
Mm-hmm.
to fully allow, accept, and step into it.
Yeah.
When you allow, accept, when you make it yours in your feelings first,
Mm-hmm.
magic. It has
Yeah.
happened. It's already done.
And that's such a great point, especially with making sure that you're energetically in the right, I don't want to say frame of mind, but frame of energy. And the way that resonated with me the most was hearing, and it was Abraham Hicks, and the tuning of the radio dial. And we all have tried to get a radio station at some point, and you turn the dial and you get the static, and you can kind of hear the song, but and then sometimes it's country, but you're in the mood for rock, and then all of a sudden the perfect song comes on, and you're just like, oh, that's just perfect. And that's when you match energy. That's the For me, that's the best way to explain it. And it's different for everybody, but for me, when I finally understood it in that way, I was like, "Oh, okay. I just have to tune my radio station. I have to tune my dial until I'm in resonance with whatever it is that I want." And you're right. There's days where I can think I want to see a blue dragonfly, and voila, it's there. And then there's times where I ask for things and it takes years. But if it's so simple, because you ask, and then if you just let it go, you just maintain your energy, clean up your energy, then it comes faster. And it can work
Yes,
with anything.
it does. That is true. It's a fact. It truly is a fact. The truth is that you always have the choice because you are the creator of your life
Mhm.
at every moment in time. Yes, even when you are so enraged and upset. Yes, even when you are so depressed underneath your cover. Yes, even when you are completely helpless in the middle of your life, not understanding what's going on. At any moment in time, with all the interesting colors of all the emotions that we can experience,
Mhm.
we always have the
Yes.
choice to take a deep breath,
Hmm.
to hold it, to remind ourselves that we are all daughters and sons of God.
Hmm.
That means that we are creator as well. That
Yes.
is what it actually means. We may not create the earth and light and water and all of that, but we are creating our reality by may there be light, by may there be a house, a car, a love, and a dog, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing is, so many people think that they have no control or no power,
That is wrong.
especially with all of the stuff, and I'll say it in a nice way, that's going on in the world. But we do. We do. If we can maintain our energy and shine our light, we affect everyone else we're connected with, or that's in our environment, right? That's around us. And then they affect everyone around them. And then it just spreads and it spreads and it spreads. And that's just such a hard concept for most people to get. But I feel, and tell me what you think, but I feel that there's a lot more people going down that route than 3 years ago.
Oh, then 3 years ago. Interesting. Yeah, I must agree.
I
I
think we're
must
seeing a
agree.
spiritual revolution where people are really starting to understand that you have to be in tune with yourself. And then when you're in tune with yourself, you can impact everyone else. It's just so, it's amazing. We have much more control than people think. Because people, I don't have any control over that. Well, you have control over yourself. And
And I'm
that's,
going to tell you, okay, you cannot make the choice of someone else. You can only make your own choices.
mm-hmm,
However, think about something. Someone else makes a choice to cut you when you are driving on the road,
mm-hmm,
cut you off. You are forced to instantly make a choice to deal with that.
yes.
The same way, if now you understand that you do have the choice and you try a different response to whatever you are experiencing, try a different response. One of the time I remember a long time ago before, when I was in Switzerland, I was employed for a moment, for a couple years. And one day I was gently, delicately laid off, like
Mm,
still.
but
And
still.
I had to actually deal with that. And I was so much not prepared for that. And I remember that my first answer was, okay. And I said nothing and I left the room.
Mm,
I drove back home.
mm-hmm,
And then I pondered and thought and thought and thought and thought. And I discussed with my, at that time, husband.
mm-hmm,
I said, okay, how are we going to handle that? Sure, I'm going to look for another job, but in the meantime, and when, and what, and how, and I don't know. And how long is it going to take me to actually find another? I don't know.
mm-hmm,
And we decided that I would actually go back to my boss and
mm,
tell him, okay, I understand the reason, I understand everything. Please, you lay me off only when I found something else, so that I'm not in that in between. But I understand that I'm looking actively for something else so that I can jump.
right.
And he told me, yes, I will not let you down. All right. Now imagine that. At the moment he tells me, I
Mm-hmm,
change my response. And I go into a frenzy. And I actually throw a fist. And I actually
right.
explode with fear and frustration and all kind of things. What do you think would be his answer if I would come afterward? Keep me,
Exactly.
you out, you crazy.
Right, right.
Of course.
It's true.
You have the choice of how you answer any event.
Mm-hmm,
Even losing to death your loved one, you have the choice to how you handle that. Are you going to let yourself down into the deepest depression, or are you going to connect with the spirit of that person you love so much, and stay there and hold space and connect and become a much bigger person, because now you are the only one.
yeah.
It's a choice at every moment in time. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. I'm not saying you don't cry. I'm not saying you don't go through the entire emotion scale. For sure, yes, you do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Me too, of course. However, when you take a little step back and you claim back your ability to choose,
Mm-hmm,
you can choose how you answer to those elements. You can choose to blame, you can choose to take responsibility, you can choose to withdraw and to hide,
mm-hmm,
choose to rest.
yeah.
You can choose to rise up to the challenge. You can
Yes.
choose to surrender and to trust that everything will be okay anyway. And
Yeah.
magic happens with your daughter. I remember that sentence.
Yes. Yes.
Everything will be
Well,
okay. Okay, so let there be it okay, and okay happened.
when I think that word surrender scares people I think that they hear surrender and they think give up. Surrender, like jump off the building, versus surrender to the words that you received. But if you weren't open to receiving, you might not have heard that. So you surrendered and you were open. And so I think people very much can misunderstand that. And that surrender is actually just saying, I don't have control. I don't know the whole plan. You know the whole plan. Whoever their divine is, whoever they pray to, whatever, meditate, whatever they do, whatever's for them, it's surrendering to, that's what I'm co-creating with you, and we plan this ahead of time, and I'm just leaving it up to you to just guide me. That's the surrender. It's not giving up. It's not giving up. It's saying, I'm joining. I'm with you.
It's accepting.
Accepting. Perfect word. Perfect word.
When you accept, and I remember that key pivotal moment, I accepted actually to die.
Mm-hmm.
And because I accepted that, there was nothing worse. So let me give it a try. I'm accepting to give it a try to live by the door a 51st time. I'm accepting to go in the unknown and to walk alone in the dark night as a woman, no destination except that address in mind, and not even knowing if Sasha would actually open his door.
Yeah.
Not sure at all. Just followed what I heard. Just made it okay. And I just walked for 2 hours.
Wow.
That's it. Did not even challenge it.
And that's faith. That's having faith and trust in the message that you were given.
Mm-hmm. And even when I arrived to his door, it was
Mm-hmm.
now 3 a.m. You can imagine at 3 a.m. he was sleeping. And then I thought, and I reflected a little bit, okay, I went 1 or 2 times to his home before, and I remember that the ring bell of down there does not ring in his bedroom. Only the front door, but it was closed during the night because it's an apartment building, therefore it is locked during the night, and except if you have the key or the code, you cannot enter. And I didn't have any of that, of course. So I said, okay, I'm going to ring that bell for as long as it takes to wake him up, because it's not going to actually wake him up. At some point, he will wake up by himself to go to the bathroom. He will therefore go out of his bedroom, but I will have to be available and present to actually attract his attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually played music on the ring bell for another 2 hours until
Oh my gosh.
But it worked. It worked. He was the first one at 5 a.m. or 5:30, I don't remember, at 5 a.m. coming down of this apartment building. He was the first. What's going on? Well, I left, and now what? I don't know. Whoa, all right, let's manage. You know?
Yeah. But you tuned the dial to the right music that you played, and and he woke up and found you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just trust. How do you maintain the faith and the trust? How do you, yeah.
You have to keep dreaming. You have to keep imagining that it has already happened. Even Jesus told us when he was on earth, and when it is all referenced in the Bible, ask as if you have already received, and it shall be given to you.
It's all right there.
Apply that.
It's a very, very, very plain instruction. Like, it's just there. Just do that.
but it's as if you have already received. It's not easy, because this is where you have to actually quantum jump in your energy in order to welcome something else. And that is why sometimes I heard some absolutely impossible, miraculous last second rescue of people, like miraculous, impossible. Actually, it was, now that I understand all of that, a true quantum jump. I remember a story when there was someone, I think it was people with all their motorcycles, and sometimes there are some mean-spirited people in those groups. Sometimes they are well-spirited. Really, there are both. It depends who and what and the circumstance. And one of those bad-spirited people in the motorcycle got circled by the opposing group and saw that he had no chance to escape alive. And at that moment in time, with no chance to escape alive, and he knows the entire, all the entire group and relationship and all of that, all right, he did not surrender to his abusers. It is the only and first time he called on to spiritual God.
And he prayed.
And he just prayed. But he prayed, thank you for saving me. If you do exist for me now, because he had no other, nothing. Like, God, come. You say you're here now. But he believed it, that was his actual, real last resort. And he believed it enough that second instant was enough for him to be saved. Something completely impossible happened, and he was saved.
And he was saved.
And it's like, wow, okay. So when you have that kind of story, especially coming from someone who is used to be mean and used to be negative and used to be negative force, who suddenly has a change of heart, well, the energy is what it is. Just mirrors back. Okay, you're saved. Let there be you saved. Okay. If you think you're saved, you are. If you think you're lost, you are.
And it's interesting because when he, before this person came down to earth into this lifetime, maybe his thought was, I want to go down and be completely changed. I want to live one way and just completely change. And
Maybe.
that was the experience that did it, It's lovely to think of things in that way. Yet there are some very hard things that people have to deal with. But that is life.
I had a conversation with the spiritual beings, and I asked, because there is one of the stories that I published that is extremely hard to hear. Awful. To me, the worst. And I couldn't get that story off of my mind. And I started to talk with spiritual realm. And I asked them, why? I mean, come on, guys. God is good. Why is that happening? And the conversation was extremely interesting and unsettling in a certain way.
Yeah.
Because the first answer came as a question. Why do you, human race, deflect on God your responsibilities? What's that thing with you? And I was like, what? Are we all a little bit narcissist? No. Maybe. Oops. Okay. 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 Indeed. We try to blame others and to find fault and to be cleared and redeemed that we are just victims and not
Mm-hmm.
responsible. Okay. And then I continued the conversation and I asked, okay, but it was a little girl, a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Right.
And then they answered something along the line of everybody has their own free agency to do good and to do bad.
Right.
And there is, sadly so, collateral damage. Other people who suffer the consequences of those actions or enjoy the consequences of those good actions. But there are consequences on other people who experience the counterpart.
Yeah. And and maybe that little girl, as hard as it is to swallow and think of, that was her part to play so that lessons were learned and things were brought up that needed to change. We don't know.
We
We
don't
just
know.
don't know. When I think about who plays the different parts in life, there's got to be the protagonist, there's got to be the antagonist, there's got to be the angel, there's got to be, and what part are you playing? And I think when we ask ourselves that, that's the radical responsibility. What part am I playing? Not just in my life, but in the world, in my environment, in the people around me. What part am I playing? And what role do I want to play? What energy do I want to put out there? How do I want to impact others? And when you start asking yourself these questions, that's when you realize that you do have that control, that radical responsibility, but you got to be willing to take it. And not everybody is. Not everybody is.
Hmm.
Oh, that's a big, deep breath.
Yeah, that's a freeing breath.
How can people find you, Gemma? How can people find you and learn more about you?
Yes, thank you. Fastest and easiest way, gemmaserenity.com. That's really like that's the hub. From there, you
Mhm.
will see everything. You will see real talk, real women breaking the silence around abuse. We have achieved more than 2 million downloads during the second year alone. And we
That's
keep on
amazing.
growing that on the podcast part of this
Mhm.
entire show. You can find uplift, inspiring stories to uplift the world, which is a much lighter show where we just like we give joy to the people and everybody can listen to it. There is no hard stuff on uplift, that I promise. You will find the GNS Academy, these online courses where we can deeply dive into self
Mhm.
mastery, into prosperity mindset, how our we can live
Mhm.
and as leadership, how to actually cast a vision in other people's mind, how to lead yourself so that you lead others. These are the three big topics that we teach about in
Right.
our online academy. You can find group coaching, you can find community, and of course, all social media. I mean, we are here for you. So we are happy to serve. With Sasha, we are the power couple because between our two stories, we just elevate, elevate people, elevate the spirit, inspire, show that you can always rise after obstacles, after abuse,
Mhm.
after challenges, after bankruptcy even. You
Yeah.
can rise after everything. It's your
Everything.
choice and your right.
Yes. Amen to that. Thank you so much for being here and for joining me. It's just always a pleasure and just so it's always an honor to be in your light. So
Thank you
thank
so much.
you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for everybody that we went long today. Thank you for being here and sticking with us. And, share this out to whoever you feel needs to hear the messages that we talked about today. Lots of inspiration. And, join us next week. We'll have different shows, different topics. And just remember every day you get to make the choice. It can be a good day, it can be a bad day. Choose wisely. Talk to you next week.